Hi everyone! Since our first virtual tasting went well, I thought I would come back and do a little bit of wine education and wine tasting with you all. We'll give it a couple moments for everyone to join in and arrive while I clean some glasses for myself. Hi, welcome to the virtual tasting. And right off the bat, a good question everyone can answer is, where are you joining us from, and are you drinking any wine? If yes, what are you drinking? And also, it doesn't have to be wine, but if you don't have anything in front of you right now, I would recommend going and grabbing a bottle. You can follow along with anything. Hi Marianne, good to see you. And Marianne actually put forth a little Wine 101 question for us about white Chambourcin versus Chambourcin Rosé, and while we're waiting for everyone to arrive, I can kind of address that. So they are the same wine. Chambourcin Rosé is just a different way to refer to it as. Give me 1 second. I'm going to get it straight from the source for you. Oh, drinking Emerald Apple, that's really great. And if you can see behind me, we have Mark and Dana and Jesse doing a little chocolate tasting with us. Isn't that fun? They're all waving. They say hi. And I'm Emily, if you haven't met me before. We're gonna be going into a little bit of some tips and tricks that I have. Oh, Cindy's watching. She's a supervisor here at the tasting room. Hi, Cindy. I'm gonna wave at her. Let's see. Now, white Chambourcin was a little bit right before my time, so I'm sorry if I stumbled a bit on this question, but I want to make sure that I'm saying exactly the same thing to you. Oh, Dana, Amanda Wagan is saying hi.
Hi.
She says hi back. Okay.
That's my niece.
Yes, so the Chambourcin Rosé is made from a red grape, so it was really just quite confusing to refer to it as white Chambourcin. And we don't want you guys to think that it is a white wine. Oh, Cindy says hi. Oh, and Marianne has carrot and apple slices with pumpkin and peanut butter dip. You really, I like your food choices. Okay, well, we've got a couple people here, so we'll go and start to get started. Again, if you just joined us, you can jump in the comments and maybe say where you're joining us from and what you're drinking tonight. If you have any questions during the presentation, we're going to try to keep it nice and slow and relaxing, but you can go ahead and put those in the comments. I'm here, I can answer them live. We also have Suzanne, our marketing manager, on call, and she'll be in there with you guys watching and seeing if you need any help. If you're just starting to get into wine, this is going to be a great little introduction to some different tasting methods. If you're an experienced drinker, you might learn something new. Oh, we have another August Hill member watching, Heather. Now, we really try to prioritize continuing education here at the tasting room. During normal business, we have a monthly staff meeting that includes a wine and food pairing. Hopefully, when things get more normal again, we can show you guys that and let you see what we do, because it actually is really interesting. I've learned a lot. Mark is a great teacher, and every month we have a little food pairing. A staff member prepares that dish for us, and then they choose 2 wines to pair with them, and we get to try it, discuss it, talk about what makes the wine great, what makes the food great, and how they complement each other. Thank you, Penny. That's really sweet of you. So if you're new to wine, this is going to be good to learn some different aspects, but if you're a pretty experienced drinker, this might also be good, because wine is truly for everyone, of a legal age, of course, and developing a wine skill set isn't about being like pickier in your choices or being snobbier about them, deciding if a label is good or bad, or if a wine is good or bad. It's really about opening up your senses to like detailed complexities within the wine and letting yourself grow and letting your palate evolve. And your palate can evolve to whatever you want it to. I personally just think it's important to continuously challenge yourself and try new things. I used to be a really picky eater. I think it's important to keep trying to get yourself out of your comfort zone. And if you're brave, come back to a wine 2 or 3 times before you completely give up on it. Composer Virgil Thompson said, do it once to get over your fear of doing it, twice to learn how to do it, and a third time to figure out whether you like it or not. Just gonna polish some glasses for the tasting while I get ready. I promise wine is coming soon. And you're gonna like what you like in terms of wine. That's perfectly okay. The advantage of trying more wines is about increasing your opportunity to find wines that might not just suit your original taste. It's just like stepping up to the plate for baseball. The more often that you do it, the more often you're gonna succeed. You definitely can't find more wine to drink if you're not trying at all. When I first started August Hill, I hadn't tried any wine and I didn't like it at all. But Jacob, who you may recognize, who's worked at the tasting room, he brought me in and introduced me, and we did a tasting together. So now we're going to start going through. My favorites have definitely evolved. We started off here in the sweeter category with raspberry, Augie's blackberry, Moscato. And then I've moved up into more of like the Nouveau, Saval, Chambourcin Rosé, and then with the Labelle. And hi to Jessica and Connie. I'm glad you did a pickup, and oh, you definitely are gonna have a great experience today if you have a whole box of wines to try. And yes, Connie, we miss having you there. Mary Ann, that's Brad Schulterman Place goal is to drink all of his dry wines. That's a really good goal. Now, let's start with the Norton. I'm just going to I've got a couple bottles prepared for today, and we're just going to jump right in. The first step to wine tasting is the pour, of course. Try not to miss the glass. I have done it many times. And so here we have the Norton. The first step to tasting wine, I mean, you can really do them in different orders. Many different wine experts say that they like to look at their wine last or first. It's very, it depends on what you want. Now, this is our Norton. It's similar to a Cabernet, but with a little brighter acidity. And so the first thing you're going to do after the pour is inspect the wine. So people often hold it up in front of them, and that's really great to learn to see it, but really what you want to do is look at it from directly above. Now from directly above, I can see, actually, it's a little hard to show you guys, but there is a bit of cork in there. Let me see if I can grab the camera. Show you guys. Oh, come on. There we are. And you really want to observe the way that the color, how deep the color is from one end of the glass to the other. Another trick, oops, I'm sorry, I hope no one gets nauseous from this. We took you on a little bit of a ride there. You're going to want to look at the wine up against a neutral background. Now here at August Hill, we have these great neutral gray walls that are perfect for this. You don't always have to go against a neutral background. It does help if you're trying to learn more from the color. You can also hold it up against a sheet of paper to really see the contrast. Yes, my advice to those looking to start to expand their wine knowledge is to really begin to take your time with this step. As you learn more about wine, you will start making observations instinctively and start just unconsciously knowing things about the wine. I know that just from working here, I started to be able to look in a glass that was, almost empty, maybe about that much left in, or just the leftovers left in, and I could tell you exactly what wine that was. That, comes from being very, very familiar and being a server. But just at home, you can definitely start to anticipate knowledge about the wine that you're drinking. Now, first, look down at the wine, hold it at about a 45-degree angle, and let it swirl around. I can kind of get a little bit of a whiff there. This one has a great smell. I really love the Norton. The color of the wine can indicate its style as well as its age. Red wines tend to get lighter as they get older, and white wines will get darker as they get older. So if you see a darker wine or a darker white wine or a lighter red wine, you will know that that has been aged. maybe purposefully or maybe not purposefully. So that will give you a clue as to whether or not you should be drinking it. It will not indicate exactly how flavorful the wine will be. So just because a wine is deep in color doesn't necessarily mean it's more complex or less important in flavor. Now we're gonna grab the red letter and the Cab Franc and do some comparisons. Let me polish this glass very quickly. Now, if anyone is new, would you like to go in the comments and let us know where you're coming from and what you're drinking, or even what your favorite August Hill wine is? There we are. So just on appearance, if you take the Cab Franc and the red letter and hold them up next to each other, you will notice that the Cab Franc has a distinctively lighter body. It is transparent in comparison to the Norton. But, you know, in comparison to something like Sweet Catawba or La Belle Rosé, it's definitely much deeper in color. And here we have against the red letter. Yes. Now, I really like the red letter for its legs. It really has a great viscosity. I find that this one just in particular, I think it's the raspberry because it leaves behind a pink color on the glass more so than some of the other wines. Are a little bit deeper in color, and I just really love the way that that raspberry and mocha flavor plays well. Give it a little smell while we're here. Now, legs are also called tears. They're an often discussed aspect of wine, but nobody usually knows what they mean. Oh, and we have a couple of more messages. Renee in Ottawa, I'm glad you're having a glass of wine. Pretty soon I'll be joining you in the tasting part, I swear. We'll all be sipping the wine soon, but for now we have to do the less fun part of looking at it and smelling it. And let's see, Niagara, and oh yes, more Niagara. That's a great one. I did not grab it today, but we do have Sweet William if you're a white fan. Now, the lakes only occur when wine is exposed to oxygen. So if you get an unopened bottle of wine, you swirl it around, you'll notice that there are actually no legs within the bottle. This is a little bit difficult since bottles are filled up to the top, so you can't see the part where it would be reacting with air since there's really no air within the bottle. But you'll notice if you put a piece of paper over the glass and trap the oxygen, you'll really have a lot less legs in there, and they will fall right back down to the surface again. Legs are left behind because wine is a combination of alcohol and water, and they have differing surface tension and evaporation rates. So the alcohol evaporates much more quickly, and that leaves the water behind on the sides of the glass. So what you're seeing behind on the glass is really the water aspect of the wine. Let's try to really swirl it up. Yeah. Wines with a higher alcohol content will create denser beads on the side of the glass. So I'm going to grab some Augie's Blackberry, which is a very high sugar, high viscosity wine. Thinner legs will indicate a lighter body, and so I'll also grab a white for us too so we can see. And now the Augies, you can just see how differently the Augie's Blackberry and the Cab Franc move inside the glass. And I'm sorry, this is like patting your head and rubbing your stomach at the same time. It's kind of hard to swirl two at once. But the Augies tends to stay together and stick together. Yes, Jeff, Augie's is very good. We love it here too. Now, sweet wines will have a higher viscosity, and so that causes the legs to drip down more slowly. So you can see, I'm worried that you guys can't see, but it just touches the glass right up there. You can see the line left behind. Legs don't indicate whether a wine is good or bad. That's an often very confused aspect of legs. They're interesting and they're fun to learn about, because if you know why legs happen, then you can make inferences about the wine before knowing anything about it. So you can know, if it has very thick legs, you can know that that is probably a sweeter wine because it has a higher viscosity and more sugar. Now, we're gonna move on. Well, let me get a white for you guys so we can see the difference, and then we will move on to smelling the wine. And after that, the tasting will come. Okay, and this is the Sweet William. So you'll notice that it also has a pretty high viscosity. The liquid tends to stick together rather than fall apart. I'm starting to worry that I'm saying a wrong word somewhere, but hopefully everything will turn out okay at the end of this. I'm not very used to being live. Now, we'll start smelling with this one. We miss everyone too, Gary. Thanks for coming by to the live tasting. We have two ways to smell, actually, as humans. The first is through the nose, obviously. The second, and that's called, through your nose is called orthonasal olfaction. You can also smell while you taste. As you sip the wine, hints of the flavor travel up the back of your mouth and into your nose. And that's called retronasal olfaction. Thank you, Sharon. I really appreciate it. It's so good to see you on here. Well, virtually see you. Let me get organized. Now, what's really cool about this way of smelling is that, or the two ways of smelling, is that they don't smell the same things. So your nose will get one scent. I swear I'm not touching my face, I'm just very close. And your mouth, or your retronasal olfaction, will get another scent. And with extremely sensitive noses, it's a great advantage to humans. When I'm at the bar and I'm giving a tasting, I always recommend for people, especially if they're trying new wines or they're trying wine for the first time, to really inhale the wine and allow their body to prepare for the tasting. Thank you, Heather. I really appreciate it. So this is something that you can't be shy about. Really stick your nose in there and take a couple of short, quick sniffs. You don't want to take just one long sniff. It's better for you to take a couple short ones. Think about a dog or another animal trying to pin down a scent. They're going to want to almost vibrate the hairs in their nose so that they can get more information about it. Yeah, this is a great trick if you really don't think you're going to drink something that you like. If somebody hands you a glass of wine and says, you should try this, and you're like, I'm not a red person, especially for a heavy wine or a complicated wine, I would say, definitely give it a smell beforehand. Unless you're doing a blind tasting, I recommend grabbing the bottle of wine. This is Sweet William that we have right here. And look at the flavor and aroma profiles on the label if they are listed, because we have amazing smell. We have the amazing ability to smell, like it's quite sensitive, but we are not as skilled in being able to name those smells. There are so many different aromas in the world, not just in the wine world, that we can actually have a lot of trouble processing that information. So it's way better to jog your memory with the wine label than it is to try to go in blind. Unless you are trying to do a blind tasting, either blindfolded with black glasses or with a red light to make so that you can't really see the color. I'd say give yourself a little bit of help and jog your smell memory before you take a sip and before you inhale as well. Now, a good question is, what are the difference between aromas and bouquets? Primary aromas come from the grapes themselves. So that'll be where you get your fruit flavors, herbal or flower smells. Secondary aromas are created through the fermentation processes and are reflective of the choices that the winemaker makes and the barrels which the wines are aged in. You'll really start to notice these in something like this, the Norton. Vanilla, hawthorn, pipe tobacco, cedar, I believe. I haven't been behind the bar, so now I'm starting to really second guess myself. Cedar, vanilla, hawthorn, pipe tobacco, and licorice. So I was pretty close, I'd say. Now, we're gonna taste the wine, I swear. We're finally there. Now, if anyone is new at the chat, you can let us know what you're drinking, what your favorite August Hill wine is. How have you stayed busy during the shutdown? And what are you looking forward to when we can resume normal business, either with us or just in general, and what you'd like to do and see in the world. Now, wine flavor is made up of a combination of taste, texture, and aroma. It can be very difficult to describe wine because individual tastes vary so greatly from person to person. And wine itself is very difficult to describe because we are using flavor references from other things in the world. We're saying this wine tastes like cherries. This wine tastes like blueberries. This wine tastes like watermelon. This sweet catawba tastes like a watermelon Jolly Rancher. And that also plays into an aspect of wine called distinctiveness. When a wine tastes just distinctly like something, that can be easy to do with a grape varietal like catawba here, or with a blend. And that's more, it would be hard to do without the reputation or I'd say, excuse my words, people tend to categorize distinctiveness as with European wines, but I think that American wines can also have great distinctiveness. We're just starting to kind of learn more about them. I'd say that American wine has definitely had a surge in popularity. It's amazing in quality, and we're really starting to... American wine has found its footing in the past 20 years, I'd say. Yes, hearts for that, because I love American wine. Now, let's pour some catawba and take a sip of it and use this for our distinctiveness test. I'm going backwards. I'm starting off with a sweet, but this is what we are trying today because it's very distinct. Everyone I know who likes sweet catawba says it tastes exactly like a Jolly Rancher. And Troy, before I talk about catawba, yes, you can still pick up wine. Our tasting room is open for curbside pickup from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. daily. You can call ahead. We can put a number in the comments later and call ahead and order your wine, or you can order online. And when you get here, call from outside and we'll bring it out to you. And yes, Gary, I also will never take walking into the tasting room for granted. We really miss having you guys here. One, I'm not wearing black and khaki, so that's crazy to me. That's not what I'm supposed to be doing at work. Feel like a rebel. But also, we miss having the customers here. It feels so empty sometimes in the lounge and up in the bar. So yeah, we miss you guys too. Watching live from Phoenix, wow. And La Belle Rosé. I stole a little bit of that one from the fridge right before I started, so maybe we'll get to open that up, Linda. And thank you so much for complimenting my explanations. I am not used to doing live. Now, catawba. Again, it's watermelon for sure. I say that it's very distinct. And it's a very straightforward singular flavor. And so I would say that sweet catawba is definitely distinctive. Let's get rid of that glass. Now, when you're drinking your wine, try to make sure that you take a little sip and not a big gulp, and let that sit in your mouth for a moment as you can feel the texture or mouth feel. Usually those are equated with words that have to do with fabric. This has a velvety texture or a rough texture. I would say something that was a great example, if you've had it, our Trapolino has a very velvety, smooth texture. Red Letter is also very, very smooth on the palate. So think of those. Those are rich, smooth, easy to drink, even though they are drier. And now here, we'll drink some Norton, go backwards. Let me have a sip of water first. Clear everything away. I missed the breadsticks at the bar. Because, not while I was working, but I came in pretty much every week to do my own wine tastings. And I very much miss being able to walk in through the front door and just see everyone here, spend time with different customers. Another good trick is to try to lightly inhale through your mouth as you take a sip of wine. This aerates the wine, and don't take for granted swirling your wine around in your glass. It really opens up the different flavor profiles in the wine, lets you smell and taste a lot more. The more you smell, the more you're going to taste. And just like with smelling the wine, try to run through examples of different flavors as you are drinking the wine, instead of just trying to let them come to you and then wildly guess. It's better to do yourself a favor and you don't have to always look ahead with the wine label and know what's coming, but to run through and say, like, oak, butter, cherry, apple, the different aspects of flavors, and those can be from primary, secondary aromas, or the bouquet. And I'm sorry, again, like I said, I am not a live expert, so I get a little bit lost sometimes, but I'm not sure if I spoke yet on primary, secondary, and tertiary aromas. So primary aromas are made up of the fruit flavors that come from wine, that come from the grape varietals themselves, and those are aromas. Secondary aromas come from the choices that the winemaker makes. I know that I definitely spoke on this, I just don't think I finished. And so that can have to do with like the barrel aging that the wine has to go through while it ferments. And then the third aspect of wine, or the tertiary aroma, is called a bouquet. Bouquets generally tend to come from older wines, because a bouquet is more of a synchronization of all of the different aspects of the aroma profile. And so it really comes together and it creates this totally new, singular third flavor, its own flavor, that is a combination of all of the flavors within the wine. So that was generally found in an older aged wine. You might find a bouquet in the Chambourcin Reserve, as it is aged additionally in French oak barrels. But I will carry on. Now, another aspect to look for when you're tasting your wine is balance. This is the Norton again, and it has notes of vanilla, hawthorn, pipe tobacco, licorice, and cedar. Now, if you're trying any wine at home, you should take a sip and think, does one aspect of this wine stick out more than all of the others, or do they work in harmony? And if your wine is balanced, then they all seem to work in an equal tension with each other. Definitely competing against each other for attention, but everyone is very in equilibrium, and it's not, one thing isn't sticking out more so than the other one. So I'll give this another smell and sip. This definitely has a great retronasal olfaction. If you just almost kind of let it take a small sip and let it dissolve on your tongue and inhale, it travels straight up again through the back of your mouth into your nose, where you'll be able to smell and taste things that you could not taste, that you cannot with just your nose alone. But by sniffing it with the nose first, you definitely open yourself up to more flavor. Now, if a wine is in harmony, the flavor will be more like an orchestra, or excuse me. When a wine is in harmony, it means that all the parts are intermingling and playing well with each other. If you take it one step further, when a wine becomes integrated, it becomes like the difference between a quartet and an orchestra. This creates a totally new experience where all the parts are moving completely in unison that creates a new flavor. I misspoke earlier and I equated that to balance, but it is integration. And they're very often confused. So I just made a perfect mistake to educate you guys, which is when a wine is balanced, it means that all of its parts are working synchronously. But when a wine is integrated, which usually happens with age, balanced wines have a very good chance of becoming integrated later in their lives after being aged. Then it creates this completely new flavor that is new experience that is a combination of all of the flavors working together completely, creating a new experience for you. Now, we'll move on to this is Red Letter, this is Cab Franc. I told you, I can identify them just by looking at them these days. And I can show you how I do that. Red Letter is a little bit more pink. It has raspberry, walnut, and mocha flavors, and so I always notice the legs left behind on this one in the glass when I'm up at the bar. Cab Franc is a light-bodied. It's much more translucent than... These are two pretty translucent. Cab Franc is they're very translucent and light-bodied in comparison to the other dry and semi-dry reds. But they both really pack a good punch and are very popular. So again, like body and deepness of color is not indicative of the flavor. And we'll go with the Red Letter. Next thing to look for is precision. And anyone can definitely take a sip of their wine at home. Let me know what you're drinking. Are you guys drinking red, white, rosé, still, sparkling, dry, sweet, anything in between? We are here for you guys and we want to give you guys a great experience. And so feel free to jump in the comments at any time. Let us know what you think, what you would like to see, if you have any questions about wine that we can answer for you, or any topics that you want to bring up. Because I'm here all afternoon for you if you really need me. And again, Red Letter, raspberry, walnut, and mocha. I can really smell the raspberry right off the top. I would say the raspberry and the mocha really interplay with each other. Raspberry on the orthonasal, from the nose. Raspberry and walnut on the tongue, really playing with each other. Raspberry and mocha on the tongue playing with each other. And the walnut really comes up through the back of the mouth, right in here, and gives it a nutty after finish to me. Everyone's tastes are different. So really, if I can impart any lesson on you guys today, it's to just keep trying more and more wine. Yes, David, go to Hy-Vee tonight and get yourself some wine and rewatch this video. And now that there's a little bit less wine, you can kind of still see the viscosity of the wine in the glass. It tends to stick together. Go back to Sweet William and you can see the difference in how those wines move. The Sweet William seems to really flow a little bit more. The Red Letter seems to stick to the side of the glass more. Now, is your wine precise? Can you clearly define the flavors within it? That's a great question. Is a wine aerator important, or is just swirling the wine good enough? A wine aerator can be very important. I'd really recommend it for dry reds. I actually have one right here that I was going to bring out for you guys later. So here it is. This is a single glass aerator. So you can grab it and aerate whatever glass you want. You don't have to worry about pre-aerating. And you can grab the bottle. This is more red letter. Let's get it up here so you can see. I'm sorry if you guys haven't seen my pours as I've been doing them. Let me get some in there, and you can see it come through and be aerated in front of your very eyes. Aeration is important. It's not always 100% necessary. Adding oxygen to the wine will release the flavors. I don't want to say it would improve them necessarily, but it will release aroma and scent into the air and allow you to taste more on your tongue. And so swirling your wine is definitely a good option for you, and it will release a lot of oxygen, but aeration is definitely a way to go if you're really trying to dig in and enjoy something and release all of the possible flavors that are within the wine. And we'll get that nice and aerated and take another sip. The scent will definitely be a lot more potent off the cuff. Oh, and Marianne has Sweet William chilling for later. And I can check to see how many wines Hy-Vee carries. I'm not sure off the top of my head. Oh, looks like Suzanne knows. Yeah, with a bigger sip, I definitely find that the mocha comes to the forefront instead of, you know, when it's a smaller sip, I feel like the first sip, I feel like the wine tends to give more of the fruit flavor, but it definitely expands as you take another sip. I was just asking everyone what their tips were that they wanted to share, and Dana said definitely, and Dana is our tasting room manager and director of sales. She said to try your wine twice, always, and I very much agree with that sentiment, because your first sip, you really can't tell anything. Your first sip is almost a lie. Your second sip will really tell you whether or not you like that wine. Again, if you don't smell the wine beforehand and you don't know what's coming, it can be very shocking to your tongue, to your system. You know, if you have a headache, anything like that, you know, just prepare yourself and be kind to yourself as much as possible when trying out new wines, because you won't like everything. Everyone's tastes are very different, and they can vary, V-A-R-Y, wildly. Now, again, a very precise wine will allow the flavors to ring like a bell inside your head. They will be very clear, straightforward, and a complex wine is not necessarily a bad or good or bad aspect of wine. Simple wines can be very fun and refreshing and delicious and absolutely delightful. It doesn't matter if they're sweet or dry. Something simple and straightforward can be very, very delicious. But a complex wine allows you to really unveil multiple layers of flavor and aroma, and it requires you to continue to sip, to take another sip and another sip, because you're learning more every single time that you take a sip. So the Norton I found to be very complex when I first started, and it was an insurmountable wine. I started off fairly sweet, and I'm really just starting to break into the world of dry reds. So the fact that you can see me drinking this Cab Franc is quite an achievement in my mind, because I like it now. It is very delicious, and I love digging into those different flavor profiles of wine, identifying them, trying new wines, and seeing what tastes different. You can have the same wine style taste completely different from a different winery or even from the same winery, just because of the flavor profiles that they put within them. And I find that quite intriguing to see what everybody, not necessarily their ideals, but what a winemaker is trying to accomplish and say, and what story they are trying to tell with their wine, and how it reflects the land from which the grapes come, the weather, the climate, everything about the environmental conditions surrounding the wine, as well as, you know, it might give you insight onto their personal preferences as a wine drinker, the winemakers, or maybe they're making that wine for somebody. I know that our Ginocchio is a Chianti equivalent, and that was made for our winemaker Mark's original co-owner, Sean Ginocchio, and his favorite wine is a Chianti. So we made a Chianti style for him, and now we will have that Chianti style for him pretty much always. And so there are really good stories inside the wines. Sweet William, which, if I can find the bottle again, there we go, is named after a relative of Mark's, and so is Augie's Blackberry, August Hill. It's Mark's grandfather, who was a farmer who worked the land, which is now our vineyard. And yes, Shelly, you should definitely have a glass. I'm gonna get rid of the last of this Catawba so I can show you guys something a little bit fun. Oh yeah, Jeff, I have the same problem. He said he always wants to know how long he can store his wine before it goes bad, but his wine doesn't last very long. Yeah, that's a big problem in my house. So this is our Indigo. If you've never seen our blue shimmering wine, it looks very cool in here. Hope there's some love for Indigo out there. A little bit sweeter. This one especially has to be shaken up before serving to get the glitter served up. Now, I thought this would be an interesting one just to see legs which are blue. So you can kind of see it reflecting off the side of my glass. Berlin is your favorite. That's a very popular one. I love Berlin. And we just paired it with cherry pie for our Easter video. That was a lot of fun. So aerate the Indigo so you can see the legs dripping off the sides. And we'll take a sip, or I'll take a sniff and then take a sip. Now, there's some debate over what this tastes like. I know for sure, because I'm right, always right. Citrus, peach, and apricot. And that's also what the bottle says. Tasting room associate Jacob would like to disagree with me. Yeah, I'd say that the apricot really comes in later. Peach off the front, especially on the tip of the tongue. And you know, it's not really true, I believe, about the different areas of the tongue getting different tastes. Usually, I believe it's true that different tastes come at different times. So by the time that the wine has reached the back of your mouth is when that taste is developing. And so instead of, you know, one part of your tongue tasting sweet and one part of your tongue tasting salty, the other one tasting bitter, it's really just all about the timing. And so as the wine hits more oxygen and hits more saliva and the molecules are released, then you will experience more flavors. And again, we'll let you see the little legs left behind by the blue wine. I think it's just a good way to see how they can drip down and be viscous. Yeah. Now, has anyone ever struggled with drinking any particular kind of wine in the past, like something that is just a style that is just an insurmountable challenge, or a type of wine, you know, I can't get over dries, or I just can't reach through to the dry side of the menu, or you don't really love sweets? Yes, Marianne, it is much easier to see legs with a glitter wine. Thank you. Now let's try to remember what this one is. This is a blind taste test. I do not remember what I poured into this glass. So live on the air, you all get to see me try to figure it out. Yes, Cindy, we can't wait to have you guys back. If you enjoyed this event, I'm so glad you said something, because we'd love to continue doing more like this. So thank you for shouting out. And also, if there's any way that we can communicate better to you, or provide you guys with better customer service, or a little bit more entertainment during this time, then please let me know, let Suzanne know in the comments below, or reach out to us another time, because we are really here to communicate with you, and we very much prioritize you and care about you guys too, and want you to have the best time that you can. While we wish we could continue to give that to you in the tasting room, at home is still a great time to spend time together. Now, yes, Marianne, I agree. But that is a good way to break yourself into those wines. Pairing them with food, a dry wine with food, is a great way to introduce yourself to different types of wines, ones that normally wouldn't be suitable to your palate or to your particular tastes. So definitely, when you're eating red meats, this is not just for Marianne, but for everybody, that's a good time to try your dry reds. They usually do have different pairing suggestions on the backs. So let's see. The Norton goes great with red meats, lambs, and hearty pastas. Cab Franc pairs well, also lamb and hearty pastas. Usually I hear a little bit more like steak. Yes, here we go. Red letter, steak, and dark chocolate. And I might have to dig into your collection right there, because all of those pairing menus would be great. Our wine club has some really great recipe recommendations that come on the pamphlets that are shipped out every month. And then we also, for different dinners that we do, if you ever grab a menu from those, you can get some great ideas. But let me grab my tasting guide right here. So she puts red letter in her stew. Now, would you say, Marianne, that you have trouble more with like the Chambourcin Norton, Chambourcin Reserve, Ginocchio, Cab Franc level? Or was it also continue down into the semi-dry category as well? Because I would suggest starting from the bottom up and working your way upwards and increasing the dryness as you go. Now, Red Letter and Berlin are two really great palatable options if you're searching for a semi-dry red blend. Red Letter is an Insider Wine Club exclusive, so that one is only available to purchase if you are a part of our wine club. But that has notes, and you've seen me drink it today, of raspberry, walnut, and mocha. Berlin is our best seller. I find them to be kind of cousins. Red Letter has a little bit of a lighter body, and I think is a little bit smoother on the finish, but Berlin is a great option with cherry and cocoa. It's our most popular wine. Now, and then two great semi-dry whites are Vignoles and Seyval Blanc. Those are pretty great to appeal to the little bit of the dry taste in you, and kind of carry you up into the next part of our menu. Now, for whites, reds and whites. Now we have our Chardonnay as a white, and that one I think it's very good, but if you are not used to very dry, it can be difficult to handle. It has notes of oak butter, honeysuckle, cream soda, and bananas flambe. And it's made of the offspring of the Chardonnay is an offspring of the Chardonnay grape. So it's gonna be very similar to a Chardonnay. I would, if you were trying, so I would not go with that if you were starting with a white, unless it appeals to you. If the flavor profile does appeal to you. Sorry, we might have lost signal there for a second. But a great option for a dry is the La Belle Rosé. And I think I'm gonna crack this one open because it's a great favorite of mine and of the other staff members, so we can talk about it. Because this one, it's actually even drier than the Chardonnay. It was above the Chardonnay on the menu. It has notes of peach, watermelon, grapefruit, peach, hawthorn, and rose petals. It's very delicate and light bodied. I remember trying it after the ISC Demi-Sec Rosé, and it tasted like water in comparison, because the Demi-Sec has a very full body for a sparkling wine, and it's a little bit sweeter and sassier than our other sparklings. If I can get this one open, I'm not showing a very good job of my skills. Okay, so we're pouring the La Belle. Got a little bit of indigo in there too, but more to love, right? You can really get the rose right off the top. Oh, MJ is here. She used to help with our wine club. Hi, MJ. I hope Rich is nearby. Give him a wave from me. Miss you guys. And I feel like the watermelon as well. It almost kind of reminds me of Sweet Catawba, but it's just less overpowering. And it's very dry, but it is so light. And I find that when people are trying, or this was what happened to me, I guess, and I've found some others with similar experiences while I work behind the bar and do tastings, is that oftentimes the problem isn't just with dry versus sweet, but also heavy versus light in terms of body. So don't just think about the dryness, but also try to identify what kind of body in your wine that you prefer. Because I prefer a light body. So the La Belle really suits my tastes, and suited my tastes when I first started. You know, I went from the raspberry infusion, which is all the way over here, and then I jumped to the Chambourcin Rosé, was kind of my favorite for a while. And then the La Belle, which is not on this tasting guide since it released right after we re-released, or right after we closed down for the Illinois shutdown. It had just been re-released. Goes right up there at the very top. And so that's where I went next. It's very, very dry. And now I have been transformed into a sparkling wine lover. But I'm an all-around wine lover too. And Jeff, keep posted for some information about artichoke. Dana might have some surprises cooking up, but no promises. Yes. Which is I'm sorry guys, we keep losing connection. Let me try to stabilize us. I hope it's okay now. But delicacy can be another aspect of complexity. So a complex wine doesn't, you know, the multifaceted aspect of it, it doesn't have to just be a full-bodied dry red. It can also be a very fragile and delicate rosé wine, just like this, or a fragile and delicate white or red. Even though the La Belle has a few flavor notes. They really work together in harmony and reveal as you go through. So it's very palatable and easy to drink. Sorry, you guys, I have so many papers around me talking about wine to make sure I don't forget to say anything to you. The big part about taking a little inhale as you sip your wine is to not spill it all right down the front of yourself. That is a skill that you should definitely master when you're tasting your wine at home. Don't try to master it when everything goes back to normal and you're out at the tasting bar. Got bubbly Wenzel walking through there. Would you like to talk to them about your Fizz Fanatic?
I don't know if I'd like to talk to you, but I will. I'm not the biggest talker. Well, I talk plenty. I hope everybody's doing well. Wow, I'm not used to all this technology. So, but I'm out there trying to figure out how to sell wine. It's like someone was telling me it's like part of this is going back to the olden days where the wineries have to get out of the vineyard and just start finding new ways to sell wine. And so anyway, I think it's been out there. Is that right, Emily? The Fizz Fanatic?
It will be coming in an e-blast.
Okay, it's coming soon in the e-blast, and I think Emily mentioned to you. But one of the things we talk a lot about is our bubbles, and we do have quite a bit of experience on it. And so anyway, I'm kind of going these 3 seminars with tasting wine. I'm going to be going into some details that some people might really, really enjoy and find fascination with, like bubble pressure. Why is a sparkling wine going to explode, or how long will a sparkling wine save when you, if you can hold the pressure in. I'll be going over that. It's like, how do bubbles form? I mean, you think, oh, they just are natural. Well, they're not. And I'll go over that. And then also just the productions of different bubbles. And everybody talks about champagne being so good. And I truly respect champagne. And I'm going to go through how the different methods of sparkling wine and why champagne is champagne. And but hey, we're Illinois. And we appreciate all your support, and also thinking of all you guys. Obviously everybody has we're going through different things, each one of us. So we wish you the best and everything, and I'll let Emily go on. But great, I'm glad I'm able to participate, and hopefully by the time I do my first one, I'll be ready and as flawless as Emily is. Oh. So, all right. Well, thank you guys. Cheers.
Yes. Hi. And we're just starting to. Wow, I actually went over my time. I was so worried about not lasting long enough and not making this long enough for you all. More snow today? No. Please don't say that. If you didn't see Mark's video from the vineyard all covered in snow the other morning, you should definitely check that out on our Facebook or our Instagram. Please let us know what you thought of this video. I'll stick around for a couple more minutes, and I'm gonna go and sneak up on everybody else and let them say hi to you. So if you want to see the tasting room staff, stick around, and let's do a little bit more wine sipping, and then we'll go and bother them all. So let's see. Let's go and finish with the Cab Franc, because I don't think that I tasted this one yet today. Just smelled it a lot and talked about it quite a bit. This has notes of cedar, cherry, and spice. Cedar, cherry, chocolate, and spice. Excuse me. So we've got 4 different flavor profiles in there. swirls around beautifully. So we want to aerate that wine. And just like we talked about earlier, you can also aerate your wine prior to pouring, right? Using something like this right in the glass. You can decant it if you'd like. And this is an Insider Wine Club exclusive. It came back sometime around November, I believe, by popular demand because everyone really loves it. I've seen great feedback on it in my time at the bar and in the lounge. The aroma is fairly easy, I'd say. There are a lot of times that you sniff semi-dry or dry red. If that's not your particular taste, it can be a little bit harsh at times. And the same thing when you sip. If that's not what you like, it can overwhelm you and make it difficult to drink. I would say, I wonder if Marianne would agree, because that can be what really steers you away from drinking those wines, because it can be harsh at times, and that's because of the tannins in the red wine. But this one is very light body, so I think it's a good option if you're trying to get out of your comfort zone. Yeah, it's got a really nice light and smooth body. Rolls right back across the tongue. And I would say that the cherry kind of comes in the middle. Yes. And also a little bit of vanilla. And I can definitely get that in the smell. Yeah. And the spice really in the retronasal olfaction. Kind of comes up the back of the throat and gives you a little bit of a bite. Okay, I'm starting to run low on time and on battery, so I'm gonna switch this around and we're gonna go say hi to everybody. Trying not to take you on a tilt-a-whirl ride right now. I can remember how. There we go. We're just saying hi.
Hi.
There's Dana and Mark doing a chocolate pairing.
Yeah, so as I said, we're doing the sparkling wine and need to get into that one, but also working on some chocolates. And this is the hard part, is figuring out which chocolates go the best with which wine.
Yes, exactly. With Josh Becker's.
Yeah, with Cocoa Blue chocolate. So down in Springfield, another small business, a friend I grew up with. And so anyway, that's coming up soon here too, so definitely keep up with us.
And it's delicious. You guys got to do it.
Jesse, would you like to say hi?
Hi, everybody. You can see how difficult my job is.
All right, let's go bother Dave. Okay, we're cutting back through the kitchen. There's the wine cooler. This is a nice little peek at behind the scenes. Dave, you are live on the internet. What would you like to... Oh, there he is. Sorry, everyone. We lose signal in Utica, but this is a nice farewell. Everyone have a great day. I'm so glad. I know MJ and Stephanie are still here with us, so thank you guys for watching. I love you and appreciate it. And everyone else, their names just came up at the bottom. So thank you guys so much for watching today. Definitely give us a little bit of feedback on what you thought, what you would like to see in the future. Not only just from this video, what other topics we can help with, and anything you'd like to know about wine or about August Hill wine in particular. So thank you so much for joining us today. This was a lot of fun, and have a great rest of your day. Everyone stay safe, stay healthy, and we really miss you.